Hello, this is the weekend edition of the Coffee Report for the days of the 15th, 16th, and 17th of May. As usual, we will start with the gas/petrol prices and then look at other subjects. The U.S. average for 88 is $4.517 per gallon. The U.K. average for E95 is 2.19 euros per liter. The Irish average for E95 is variable, with the price between 1.734 euros per liter on the low average to 1.869 euros per liter on the high average. Again, my trackers for the Irish petrol seems to be calculating using different regions, so I take a low and high to report the prices. For those used to $2 per gallon, €1 converts to $1.16. 1 gallon converts to 4.54 liters. Yeah, it's expensive. We will start with the FBI director today as he continues to both be in hot water and the public eye. Earlier, Kash Patel had reports published of his drunken behavior, wasteful spending on travel, extravagant and regular trips to Las Vegas, the Olympics, and more. Furthermore, he has his own merch-branded hard liquor in special bottles that he gives out as souvenirs. He has also attempted to sue a reporter who published that his drunkenness had impacted operations, and that agents had to break down a door because he was so unresponsive they feared he had drunk himself to death. This week, he had to explain why he took a VIP snorkeling tour of the WW2 memorials at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii on the taxpayer's dime, when he was supposed to be briefing the Hawaiian branch of the FBI. For those unaware, the memorial is simultaneously a national park, a museum, and a graveyard with human remains. This is a restricted area for preservation, and diving is extremely rare, normally done either for historic preservation study or the like. Internal emails show that the director used military divers as his guides. He does not, in fact, have an underwater archaeology background, if you were curious. This has drawn public condemnation and questions on why he has this job. Remember, whatever mistake you make at work today, it wasn't a Kash Patel quality mistake. On to disease news. In an update on the ongoing Hanta virus outbreak on the cruise ship, the WHO Outbreak News blog and U.S. medical facilities have updated their information. As reported earlier, the strain was sequenced in, and the data from the comparisons of the labs show the disease came from an older couple that birdwatched an area full of mice that are a reservoir species. The WHO has updated that out of the cruise ship, the number of infected showing symptoms has risen to 11 total. The 3 passengers reported earlier to have passed are the only deaths so far. 41 people who were exposed to the couple are being monitored in U.S. in quarantines. There is still no positive U.S. cases tied to the cruise ship as of the 14th. There are positive cases of hantavirus in the Americas, but these are situations such as the cleaning person who was exposed to mouse waste at the job, as reported earlier. Keep that in mind when the news spreads of a quote-unquote new case of hantavirus in the cycle. Again, my Hanta fear meter is currently a 3 out of 10. This is mostly due to sociology and not biology. In more serious and concerning news, we have an Ebola outbreak, and Doge killed the frontline programs to stop it. In 2025, meme lord K-hole-head Elon Musk went on a regulatory axing spree of programs in the government, targeting research, academia, regulatory agencies, fining him, and USAID, supposedly to, quote, cut waste, unquote. Many of these cuts were found to be unconstitutional, ended programs that were desperately needed, and the cuts made the public less safe. Most were not refunded. This is a power of the purse problem, and Congress is actively ignoring that. USAID was a soft powers program in which the U.S. funded multiple world health projects, not for the good of our souls, but for political leverage and enlightened self-interest. One of these programs was a tracking, monitoring, and preventing system of Ebola outbreaks, which Musk admitted his 20-something-year-old meme lords killed. But he swore he put it back. In actuality, the doctors and experts were fired, the screening processes were not put back into place, border checkpoints are unstaffed, the organizations that coordinated tracking do not have the people in positions to work with governments in the region or the WHO or Doctors Without Borders. TLDR, it isn't funded, and we now have a massive outbreak of Ebola. In the eastern Ituri province of the Congo, we sadly have confirmed over 80 dead, with over 240 suspected cases. We have lab confirmation of the strain. The strain has two major recorded outbreaks before. The outbreak has been confirmed by Africa's top public health body officials who have spread to Uganda Friday, and Doctors Without Borders is preparing for a large-scale rapid response deployment team to be activated. Representatives for Doctors Without Borders have stated that they are concerned for the people of Congo and are calling for an all-hands-on-deck response. In response, the WHO has stated that they will be sending aid and specialists, as well as to work with volunteers and local aid workers. WHO has also declared it a World Health Emergency. This declaration greenlights funding, assets, and treaty cooperation between nations to aid in the response. It does not declare a pandemic. While this mobilization is good, the former USAID program supported groups like the medical teams in the Congo, the WHO, and Doctors Without Borders via logistics like testing, monitoring, border tracking, supplies, and more. It would have been one of those tools in the kit deployed after a declaration like this, while also working on prevention and containment beforehand. The countries in the region are now having to make do without those assets. This one is a 4 out of 10 on the meter for me. Again, it is not a pandemic. This requires fluid contact for disease expression. So less threatening than an airborne illness, but it ravages patients and it's horrific to work with. It also hits hardest amongst the poorest regions, while richer countries can just shrug it off. Hence why international groups and projects like the ones cut are needed. As reported in earlier coffee reports, weather events this season are going to be more intense and unpredictable. NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, has made public an internal assessment and analysis of oceanic and atmospheric conditions and the modeling results. The above linked document goes into the assessment and risks for the upcoming season. There is a high likelihood that we will see an extremely powerful El Nino, and that this will impact rain patterns, weather unpredictability, and intense storms for the upcoming seasons. This can impact agricultural production and increases the risks of regional droughts, flooding, and several weather patterns. We are likely in my region to have wildly unpredictable rain, intense weather, and uncharacteristic temperature swings, and more. Unfortunately, the early warning systems have been defunded, and communication channels for the scientists to speak to the public have been removed, and the specialists have been fired by this administration earlier, forcing scientists to volunteer this information via releasing internal reports and posting to Substacks. As I have friends, colleagues, and loved ones in Tornado Alley, this defunding of the early warning systems is a personal event for me. Proteome news. In genetics and proteome news, a new Nature paper has demonstrated another layer to genetic control of stuff in the human body that we did not have the capability to even detect, with a newly identified protein-like structure now being able to be measured. The paper is open access. To explain to the back row, we have something in biology to explain inheritance and how our bodies make things. It's called the central dogma. To explain it to you like you're a middle schooler, you have a process where DNA, a molecule made of acids strung together, act as a blueprint. The string is read, and then it is made into RNA. The RNA then acts as a copy of instructions and is used to make proteins. Proteins are used to make things in you. This is a very simplified explanation. There are stretches of DNA, however, that do not code for things. Some of this is for modifying how the coding sections are read. Some are to do other things, TM, but there are stretches that we are unaware of the purpose of. This paper goes into detail of looking at those stretches that didn't code for protein and that we didn't know what it did. This is a truly international collaboration with labs stretching from the US to Canada all the way through Europe and to the Far East. Some of these regions code for the newly named biothingy, TM, called peptidines. Now, what are peptidines? These are really short strands of amino acids, the building blocks of protein, that are so small that we just recently got machines and protocols that can detect them. This paper found a way to find stretches of this DNA that we didn't know what did that were making these short chains. Then they open sourced the tools for everyone to use. There are so many of these peptidines coded for, and before recently they were too small to even detect, let alone study. But Bobo, it's just like protein. No, it's its own thing, and there's entire libraries now to study them. But Bobo, they're so small. What can they do? Okay, we don't know what they do. So to see if they did anything, they took some of our special test cells and did some experiments. To explain this again like you're a middle schooler, when we don't know what something does in a cell, we do this series of experiments that I will try to explain using a car as an analogy. We take and open the hood, metaphorically, to see a piece that we don't know what does, and then take it out. Then we poke the metaphorical car to see what happens. In this example, I take a piece off and the left turn signal doesn't work anymore. So it probably has something to do with that. Then we do a whole bunch of other left turn signal related experiments to see exactly what that part does. In this instance, they, quote, took out a part, unquote, in the cells, and the cells did very weird things. Scientifically cool and weird things that mean we need to have so many dissertations written on these strings of DNA code for peptidines. This can unironically lead to an entire new branch of molecular biosciences, a subspecialty of my field. And I am alive for the first paper to drop in a developing sub-branch. I am beyond K-pop stan levels of geeked out about this. This is so cool. Now on to wars. The wars in Ukraine and the Mideast intensified this weekend despite ceasefire claims. In Ukraine, the defenders faced waves of drone attacks from Russia targeting civilian population centers. This weekend, a sanctioned and monitored humanitarian convoy delivering humanitarian aid to Ukrainian civilians besieged by invaders was drone struck multiple times, once en route and then after it had stopped to distribute humanitarian supplies. This was an internationally sanctioned humanitarian mission with clear communications to both sides of the conflict. Russia also launched one of the largest drone strikes targeting Kiev civilian areas and power infrastructures earlier this week. Russia used mass waves to swamp defenses, killing at least 24 and injuring untold numbers and causing widespread damage to civilian infrastructure. 3 days later, Ukraine launched a counterattack targeting strategic oil logistics and factories in Russia. The attack was targeted in crippling Russia's ability to make profit from oil, which is one of the few things keeping the Russian economy afloat during this invasion. This counterattack alone doubled the number of Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries this year. To put the scope of the attack in context, in the Mideast, the ceasefire between the US and Israel versus Iran and its allies was claimed to have been extended. However, after the declaration, Israel launched strikes in Lebanon and Gaza, claiming to target military assets. These claims by Israel of targeting military assets are being questioned by international groups as civilian casualties mount. The Strait of Hormuz continues to be blockaded by U.S. forces and shut down by Iran, with the Iranian Mosquito fleet being shown to be an effective counter to large-scale ships. The Mosquito fleet is a swarm of small, easily replaceable boats and subs that can deploy mines or use fast attack swarm strategies to launch anti-ship technology against larger targets. They are easily hidden in small, hardened underground bunkers, which allowed the forces to project the threat of attack against a wide range of targets. This forces the use of expensive and limited assets like attack helicopters and jets to deploy against speedboats with rockets. Because of this, one ship has been reported sunk this weekend, with another captured and taken to Iranian ports. During their unilateral talk, China has put pressure on the US and Israel to stop the war, as this follows China's international strategy of looking like a peacemaker and an alternative power for world leaders to come to. In response, Iranian leadership has stated that it wishes to end the war as well, however that they distrust US leadership. They cited the inciting incident of the war in which they were willing to agree to all diplomatic points during pre-war talks, just to be attacked before signing as the result of their distrust. And yeah, if you stayed this long in the report for this weekend, we covered weather, gas, wars, diseases, science, and politics in this coffee report. Again, the Ebola alert is for a world response. It is not a pandemic declaration. For further readings, please check the cited sources. And again, thank you for your time.